Welcome back, paranormal enthusiasts. Today, we're diving deep into a case that shook a small town to its core and became one of the most documented hauntings of the 1980s. This is the chilling true story of the Tallman House. It all started in 1986, when Tony and Debbie Tallman, along with their 3 children, moved into a lovely 2-story home in Horicon, Wisconsin. They were excited to start a new chapter, to make the house feel like their own. They bought a set of used bunk beds for their kids from a local secondhand shop. It was an innocent purchase, but it would soon become the focal point of a terrifying ordeal. Almost immediately after bringing the bunk beds into the house, strange things began to happen. At first it was small stuff. The children started getting sick for no apparent reason. They would hear disembodied voices calling their names. Then, the radio would suddenly switch stations on its own, blasting static or unsettling music. Debbie reported seeing an orange glow emanating from the empty downstairs rooms. It was unnerving, but they tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just old wiring, or their imaginations running wild in a new house. But the activity quickly escalated. The youngest child, a 2-year-old girl, claimed to see an old woman with long black hair and a fiery glow in her room. She described the woman as an ugly old witch. The older son saw the same figure. Soon, the entire family was experiencing unexplained phenomena. Objects would move on their own, doors would slam shut, and shadowy figures would dart through the hallways. The family felt a constant, oppressive presence, a sense of being watched. The epicenter of the activity seemed to be the bunk beds. The children refused to sleep in them, complaining of nightmares and seeing the ghostly old woman. One night, their 9-year-old son was sleeping in the top bunk when he suddenly felt ice. He saw what he described as a fire erupting from the foot of his bed, but there was no heat, no smoke, just terrifying, silent flames. Desperate and terrified, the Tallmans knew they couldn't explain this away. They decided to bring in their pastor, hoping for some spiritual guidance. As the pastor entered the home, he immediately felt an overwhelming sense of cold and dread. He blessed the house, praying in every room. For a brief period, about 2 weeks, the activity seemed to subside. The family breathed a sigh of relief, hoping their nightmare was finally over. But the peace was short-lived. The haunting returned with a vengeance, more aggressive than ever. The disembodied voice started taunting them, saying things like, "Your dad didn't come here." One evening, as Tony was working in the garage, a disembodied voice growled right next to his ear, "Come here." He ran inside, shaken to his core. The situation reached a terrifying climax. One night, the family witnessed a dark, misty cloud form in the living room, solidifying into a figure with glowing green eyes. Then, flames erupted from the floor, engulfing the room in a spectral fire before vanishing as quickly as they appeared. This wasn't just a haunting anymore. It felt like a direct, demonic attack. Fearing for their lives, the Tallman family fled their home in the middle of the night, leaving all their possessions behind. They stayed with relatives, too terrified to return. They were convinced that something evil had attached itself to the bunk beds and, by extension, their home. The story spread like wildfire through the small town of Horicon. The local media picked it up, and soon, the Tallman House was national news. Paranormal investigators and psychics from all over the country flocked to the house, eager to witness the phenomena for themselves. Many who entered reported feeling the same oppressive energy, sudden temperature drops, and a sense of being watched. Investigators began to dig into the history of the bunk beds. They discovered that the beds had passed through several families before the Tallmans bought them. Each family had reported experiencing strange and unsettling events after bringing the beds into their homes. Although none as severe as what the Tallmans endured, it seemed this object was a conduit for something malevolent. The family, now living with relatives, was still not entirely free. The entity seemed to follow them. They continued to experience paranormal activity even after leaving the house. Convinced that the bunk beds were the source, they decided they had to be destroyed. The beds were taken apart, brought to a landfill, and completely dismantled and buried. After the destruction of the bunk beds, the paranormal activity that had plagued the Tallman family finally ceased. They were able to move on and rebuild their lives. But the memory of those terrifying months in their Horicon home would never leave them. The house itself was eventually sold and exorcised multiple times. Later occupants reported that the house was quiet, suggesting that the entity was indeed tied to the beds and not the property itself. The Tallman House possession remains a fascinating and unsettling case. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes an object's history can carry more than just memories. It can carry something dark, something ancient, and something that wants to be seen. What do you think? Was it a genuine demonic attachment, a poltergeist, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the paranormal. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unknown. Stay safe and keep questioning.